This ESPN podcast is brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com.
Must-hear radio. This is the Paul Finebaum Show. And now, Paul Finebaum.
Everybody, good afternoon on Friday, Finebaum Friday, on this mid-July day. We're delighted to be back in our friendly little studio here after 4 days in Hoover, Alabama. Hope you enjoyed our coverage of SEC Media Days. Came back this morning, and we are ready to roll and look forward to a hopefully entertaining 4 hours here on the program. Love to hear from you. We always take phone calls. That's part of the drill here at 855-242-7285. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, what about the headlines of this Friday afternoon? And the media has picked the preseason All-SEC team, and certainly the offense is where we like to begin. Pretty familiar name at the top of that, Dak Prescott, no doubt. Nick Chubb, the leading vote getter. Fournette, red pants and all. That didn't cost him. Treadwell, Duke Williams from Auburn. A lot of big names on there, including Laramie Tunsil. His eligibility, a little bit of a question mark at the moment. The defense, Kim Dichie, yeah. Ashawn Robinson, Myles Garrett. Yeah, have you heard these guys' names before, like all week long? Vernon Hargraves. It's a pretty impressive group of young men who made the first team All-SEC team. So, did the SEC impress the media this week? Not really. Fox Sports, Stuart Mandel, we'll talk to him a little bit later on, why the SEC will never dominate the playoff like you feared. The negativity continues, nattering nabobs of negativism. You know who made that statement 50 years ago? Tennessee under the gun. A lot of headlines coming out of Knoxville today. The federal government has launched an investigation at Tennessee after an individual filed a complaint regarding the university's response to a report of sexual violence. At least 6 Vol players on last season's roster have been accused of sexual assault. So we'll get into all of those topics today, including one more. You knew we were going to do this one. Plaxico Burress. Remember him? Bang, bang. Plaxico Burress says Nick Saban lied to Spartan. He has no room to talk. Plax going to Twitter after Saban's comments. So Plaxico Burress, this is not the first time Plaxico Burress has come after Nick Saban. I believe it was in his autobiography. He went after Saban. You don't hear a lot of criticism of Nick Saban of what he has done or things he is or people he has been involved with at Alabama, but there have been some haters about what happened up in East Lansing with Michigan State. Our guest list today is impressive, as always. Rece Davis, the new host of College Game Day. He will be with us. Stuart Mandel of the previously headline story. Brock Hewitt and Tom Fernelli. A lot of impressive guests as we continue. Also, your phone calls at 855-242-7285. And glad to be back. It was fun being at SEC Media Days. Some of the coaches, well, actually, not some, all of the coaches will head to ESPN on Monday and Tuesday. So we're not done with the SEC coaches just quite yet. Let's get to the phones quickly here at 855-242-7285. And let's start with Jacob in Virginia. Jacob, thank you very much for the phone call. Good afternoon.
Hey, Paul, how are you doing today?
I'm well. Thanks for the call.
I'd like to talk about SEC Media Days and the rankings.
Okay.
Things up in media never seem when it comes to defense. Is it just me, or is LSU just a little bit too high on the West?
I thought they were. I thought they were a little high, but I was looking at one of the power indicators the other day, and they actually had LSU as the best team in the West. But my sense is they're maybe one spot too high, maybe two spots too high. But a lot of talent on that team, and that's one reason why people like LSU. Appreciate the call very much. Let's head on to Dorothy in Alabama. Dorothy, good afternoon.
Yes.
How you doing?
Just fine.
That's great to hear. Anything you would like to talk about today, Dorothy?
Is this the Paul Finebaum show?
Yes, it is. This is
yes,
the Paul
I would like very
show.
much to talk to Paul Finebaum and tell him I disagree with a lot of the stuff that the people are saying about my coach, Nick Saban.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're speaking to the host of the Paul Finebaum show, so what are you unhappy about, Dorothy?
Well, it doesn't matter what Nick Saban says. They are always low-rating him. It doesn't matter what he says. They always want to take it out of context. They should not have the recruiters in there during the football camp. Wait till all the football games are over.
Dorothy, I'm not sure. Let me make sure I understand you correctly. What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
Because Nick Saban said, I'm on the phone, come look. Because they said that everybody says that Nick Saban is just making up excuses why they lost to Ohio. It's because the recruiters came in and all. But they did.
Well, did you hear, Dorothy, hold on. Did you hear what Coach Saban said the other day?
I can't even hear myself on TV. All I hear is my name up there. I don't know what I'm saying up on that TV.
Yeah, a lot of people would probably agree with that. Thanks, Dorothy. Let's go to someone who makes a lot of sense, and that's Lance from Tennessee. Good afternoon,
well,
Lance.
all I'm telling you, I love Nick Saban.
Well, I thought we were done with Dorothy. Can we be done with Dorothy? Thank you. Lance is next. Lance, how are you?
Oh, that was great. Bang, bang. That was hilarious, too, Paul. Let me tell you. Hey, man, I just watched the media's building up too hard on Steve Spurrier, man. I mean, we were talking about Jim back when you said embrace where you are as a coach. And I think he's done a good job of that at South Carolina. You can't have the same winning expectation in Florida. South Carolina, he's been consistent. He's been 7-6 to 11-3. He cost your boy Urban Meyer 2 SEC East titles in 05 and 2010. And he's beat Georgia 4 out of 5. I just think he's a young 70. He's a living legend. And people ought to embrace and have a bit more respect of Steve Spurrier instead of waiting until he's dead and talk about how great he is. Because he's still great, man. I respect him more for taking a lower-class job like South Carolina instead of a lot of these coaches that go from one big job to the next. I mean, you don't give him any kind of edge for that. I mean, you look at, Urban Meyer went Florida to Ohio State. Steve Spurrier went to South Carolina. I mean, just put Steve Spurrier at Georgia. I mean, he would have done one in the national championship with all that talent Mark Reece had. You agree with that? I mean, I just think he went to a lower class job.
I don't know about that, I'm not sure about that, Lance. Anyway, thanks for the call. Kevin is up next in Georgia. Kevin, thank you. Good afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. How you doing, Kevin?
Hey, I'm fine.
Good.
Oh, just want to talk a little bit about Mark Rick. Saw him on media days. Seems like he's talking about going straight to the top. And, of course, I know there's a lot of hype around Georgia, usually is for the last 3 years. Just wondering if if it's not hurting them somewhat, all this hype and all this big talk. I don't think Georgia's
really getting that much hype. I spoke with Mark yesterday, and he you seem pretty non-affected by it all. I mean, if there's a school in the SEC that's getting hype, it's Tennessee. I mean, they're the buzz school. Georgia was a very unenthusiastic pick yesterday by the media to win the SEC East. A lot of people really do like Tennessee, and so I don't think that aspect is really going to impact Georgia at all. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Let's check in next with Roland is next up. Roland is in Memphis. Good afternoon. Roland is in Memphis. Good afternoon. I think I seem to be saying that a lot today. Roland, you there? Roland has passed away. And I'm thinking about it myself. We'll take a break. 855-242-7285. We'll try to compress the time between phone calls and on air because there seems to be a failure to communicate so far today. We'll be right back. A lot of guests. We'll get this show rolling. Maybe he get Dorothy to call back and interpret to us what she was trying to say the first time around. Let's check in with J.D. You are next. Good afternoon. How are you?
Hey, good afternoon. Doing well, Paul. You know, I want to talk about some comments Joey Galloway made the other day when he was talking about the teams that will probably be in the mix this year. When he mentioned Alabama, he said he wasn't quite sure why Alabama should be considered one of those teams. And I just wonder if Joey Galloway has watched Alabama in the Nick Saban era and all the teams that he's had, regardless of who the quarterback is, who the defensive players are, the coordinators. Nick Saban can take whatever players he has, and trust me, there's some really good players, and they're always in the mix. To me, that is a better barometer to look at what you think will probably happen than this team has this many starters coming back, and they did good last year, so therefore this is what will probably happen. And I get it, when teams are winning like Alabama, you kind of want somebody else to win. But I wish they would just say that instead of saying, I'm not really sure why Alabama should be considered in the mix when they don't have as many players coming back. What do you think about that?
Yeah, J.D., I sat with Joey quite a few times. We were together yesterday during the entire college football live show with Joe Testore, and he made that statement there as well. I just think he likes Auburn more. Joey's a really smart guy, and he's clearly aware, as you are and as everyone is, about Alabama's talent. But I think there's a little bit of selling out on Nick Saban. There's a little bit of Alabama fatigue, and now that Alabama has lost, if my memory is correct, let's see, 2-2-1-1. What's that? 6 games in 4 seasons.
Yeah.
Everyone's just loading up on the Tide. It's remarkable, really. You lose 6 games in 4 seasons, and people are burying you. You lose 6 games. I know I sound like Spurrier here. You lose 6 games at Tennessee in 1 season, and you're the new kid on the block. It's just the way it goes for Alabama and Nick Saban.
I remember last summer everybody jumped on the Gus bus, and we're talking about how Gus is going to take over, and Cowherd was saying that, and he's going to just dominate Saban in Alabama. And then as it got closer to the season, the media started to actually look at their schedule and said, wait a minute, maybe not. Auburn just doesn't seem to ever be able to put 2 really good years together. So maybe this year will be a good year for them. I don't know.
I tell you what, J.D., you mentioned something interesting. We had a good good opportunity, I think it was on Tuesday or Monday, or whenever it was, to visit with Gus Malzahn, I think on Monday, and I heard his name less this year than any year since he's been there, and I think some of it is because most of the oxygen seems to be coming or being sucked out of the room by Will Muschamp. That's the big story at Auburn. Gus Malzahn, people accept as a very good coach who had a very great first season, surprised everyone, and an 8-5 season that nobody seems to want to talk about. Everyone just says big deal. Had a tough schedule. Not an issue at all. Alabama loses one game in the regular season, and people are selling Nick Saban stock like it's the 29 crash on Wall Street. Will is next in Mississippi. Good afternoon, Will.
Good afternoon, Paul. Yeah, it's over, Bama boys. It's over. Well, but seriously, that's crazy talk. But
it's pretty funny that somehow Nick Saban outlived Colin Cowherd.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I just can't get my head around it. But my question for you, you probably saw a good bit of Les yesterday, and do you think you learned anything from that total mismanagement of the way they threw Brandon Harris in there last year, his only start at Auburn, and how they really didn't go back to him at all the rest of the year?
I think he did. I think that was out of desperation. And by the way, Will, I perhaps would have made the same decision as Les Miles did. LSU had to try something. And don't forget, that wasn't up against one of the great defenses in the SEC. He took a chance. Auburn had a porous defense. Let's try it, and everything that could go wrong did go wrong in that game.
You're right, and he is a riverboat gambler. That's why we love him. But now with Jennings' mistake that he made, it's pretty much set that he's going to be. We don't know what the suspension is going to be, but he's the man, and he's the guy that can take us there.
I'll say this about that, and I was just talking to people. I really spent a lot of time around Les Miles, but I just didn't get the impression that the Jennings issue is as prevalent or prominent. You tell me, you're down there, but I heard he'd be back in camp. There wasn't, certainly he seemed to be on a longer leash than I thought he would be based on the circumstances.
Which is, I'm hearing exactly the same thing, and he was a leader on the team, and leadership is, very important, as you well know. And, but, there's no way he's got to be suspended for what he did, you would think. But who knows anymore with the NCAA and everything. And I just think that there's no way that we can get to where we need to be with our talent with Jennings. Yeah, he's better, but as far as his leadership, but we just have to they got to throw Harris in there. They have to know that.
Well, they do. They know the circumstances. I'm not giving them a free pass. I think Cameron has been a moderate disappointment as offensive coordinator. I'm sure most LSU fans.
Moderate.
I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt.
Oh, first mistake of the day. And Miss Dorothy was wildfire there. You can't contain Miss Dorothy. You can't stop her. You can only hope to contain her.
Yeah, but as far as I think Cameron made the decision. I'm not so sure it's the decision to start. I'm more concerned that Cameron just simply hasn't been able to develop. I think that's where his fault lies.
Yep, 100% correct. A great show. You're back on. You feeling back to normal a little bit?
Yeah, no, the week was fun. It was unlike anything we'd really ever done before because we had never had all day coverage, including what we do here. But we're pretty happy to be back. Season's not here yet, but it's just you can see it. It's down the road. Thanks for the call. Truman is in Missouri. Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
Hi, Paul.
Hi.
I would like to ask you, how do you think Harold Brantley's injury or his car accident this summer is going to affect Missouri's defensive line and the loss of Shane Ray and Marcus Golden? I know the inside is going to be fairly good this year with Josh Augusta and Beckner Jr. maybe being able to play. But as Coach said on his press conference, I think Wednesday or Tuesday, he said Harold Brantley's out for the season.
Yeah, he did, and we talked to Coach Finkel after that, Truman. Thanks for the call. I think it's a big blow. I think Missouri, I did not like them to repeat before that. I think that's just one more piece of a puzzle that will challenge them a great deal. We're up against a break, 855-242-7285. It has been pretty interesting first 25 or 30 minutes. Many guests to come. We'll talk more about the SEC Media Days, the aftermath of all that. Rece Davis coming up as well, the new host of College Game Day.
Individuals
welcome you back. Certainly college football season edging closer, and we all know change will be upon us, and one of the more equally watched changes that people have already embraced when it was announced is the appointment of Rece Davis as the new host of College Game Day. And Rece still has a few more Saturday mornings to sleep late, having done the gauntlet in basketball and now football. Instead of staying up late at night, he'll be getting up early in the morning. And Reece, thanks so much for the time, and I hope the summer has been good.
Everything's been great, Paul. I know that from watching you guys the last few days, you've been working very hard over the last few days, and I'm pleased to see that you sound as if you've recovered nicely.
Well, it's you know, at my age, Reece, it's tough to get around, but I keep plugging away.
I think you're fine.
Thanks a lot, and I know you're looking forward to the season as you always do, and as you begin to cross the X's off the Saturdays, I know there'll be some anticipation for the first College Game Day.
No, there's no question about that, Paul. I'm really excited about getting the season started. As you mentioned, I look forward to the season every year, but having the opportunity to, you know, embrace a new challenge like this and be part of a show like College Game Day with all of the talented people that I work with there is something that's really exciting. And it's been fun over the course of the summer to be able to get together with those guys, you know, for a day here and a day there for various events that we've needed to attend. So that's been good too, in order to give us some time together as a group, because I think, you know, I've been asked a whole lot over the summer about chemistry and about getting to know guys. I know all of the people on that set and have worked with all of them in some capacity, at least fairly often over the years. What is going to be different is that I haven't been with them, with the exception of the playoffs last year and the national championship game. We haven't been together, you know, in a true game day on-campus environment yet. So, you know, that chemistry will grow and emerge, but that's, you know, those are the types of things, having us together as a unit so we get better accustomed to how each person thinks and so forth, and what buttons we can push and where to challenge guys and how to further the discussion.
And Reece, you've done so many different things, from play-by-play at every level and every sport to you know, being in the studio, many different with many different personalities, including Lou and Mark May. I assume if you could survive countless years with those two gentlemen, this ought to be pretty easy.
You know, I tell you what, it's I really enjoyed the time. Mark and I were together at a charity event just last week, and I've said many times, I don't have a better friend on the planet than Mark May. And, you know, I have great respect for him as a professional and even more as a person. So, you know, that part of it on a personal level with both Mark and Lou, with whom I'm also close, was, you know, I mean, that's never easy to make a change when you're embracing something different and leaving some great friends behind. But yeah, they can be feisty and cantankerous. You know how veteran coaches are and big time players. They think they're right all the time, and you and I have to remind them that they're not.
No doubt. Well, certainly I know you'll be interviewed countless times, and the questions will, I'm sure at some point, be mind-numbing. But I think everyone who knows you has little doubt this will be a seamless transition, and I know you're looking forward to it. As far as the season, we're at that juncture, Reece, where we start developing storylines, and it seems pretty obvious that Ohio State is the biggest.
There's no question, Paul. I mean, they are, you know, to me, the prohibitive favorite to repeat, but that doesn't mean that they will. I mean, I don't know where I stole this saying from, but it's not the best team
that always wins. It's the team that plays the best on that particular day. If the best team, in my judgment, were guaranteed to win, then there wouldn't be any need for a season. Ohio State's the best team. But that doesn't mean they'll win. And seasons unfold, and teams, have rough days for whatever reason, and that's what makes it dramatic. But I clearly think that this year is a little bit different. In past years, I guess maybe last year was a little bit of an exception with Florida State coming back with Jameis Winston returning. But most years, we've had an SEC juggernaut that everybody is watching and shooting for and waiting to see whether they will stumble or when they will stumble. This year, that team is Ohio State. And so it's, I think it is the most compelling and the biggest storyline of the entire season. But now, Ohio State, which when I was there last August, I think they thought that this year, this upcoming season, 2015, was the one in which they would be best positioned to win a title. But now a different set of challenges, I think, comes up when you are trying to repeat and you have, you have sustaining success and you don't have any more of that nobody believes in the Big Ten to be able to kind of fuel you because you just proved it by winning the first college football playoff. So I think that'll be an interesting thing to watch with Ohio State this season as well.
Yeah, we've obviously spent the last 4 days talking about the SEC, but I would like to get your thoughts on TCU as well, because as soon as you get someone to say Ohio State is the best, most will say TCU is next.
I don't disagree with that because they have so many guys coming back on offense. But I do wonder whether they benefited a little bit last year, early on perhaps, from sneaking up on some people. They had some things that I'm not suggesting they got lucky. They're an excellent team, so I don't want that to be taken out of context. But they had some fortuitous bounces last year. Of course, then again, they probably should have beaten Baylor and didn't, so I guess it cut both ways. I'm not sure I'm as sold on them at the moment as some are in terms of being a slam dunk playoff team. Now, are they going to be a terrific team? They're going to win a lot of games? There's no doubt about that. And I do think that TCU and Baylor are the class of the Big 12, and one of those teams will win that conference, and almost certainly this year, I believe, be in the playoff. But I don't know that I look at TCU as being a complete slam dunk, over Baylor, for instance. I mean, they have a couple of tough games away. I think Oklahoma State's kind of sneaky road game. They've got to go to Oklahoma. I swore to myself before the season started that I would not put any expectation whatsoever on Oklahoma or Georgia until they did something. It's hard to get around Georgia in the SEC East, but I'm trying. I think TCU has some schedule challenges with road games, but certainly they have the benefit of having Baylor at home. So I guess I'm just saying I don't think they are as big a slam dunk as I view Ohio State to be, which I look at Ohio State's schedule at the moment, and certainly after 4 weeks you and I could have this conversation and things could change. But as I look at the moment, the only team I see on the schedule that I believe can beat them is Michigan State, and I'm not sure that that game's in Columbus. Michigan State's without Pat Narduzzi. It's a little bit of a different dynamic now.
Reece, I hate to use the same script from last year, but if either TCU or Baylor lose, and perhaps the loss is after the midpoint of the season, are we going to go through the same conversation that we did last year about them getting left out of the 14 playoff?
Probably. I think particularly, Paul, with Baylor, because they don't have it will be the exact same discussion because of their week non-conference schedule. At least TCU has Minnesota, which is a respectable Big Ten team. Just like last year, they both play SMU, and Baylor plays a couple teams that they're supposed to beat, and and TCU plays another team. They have another guarantee game. So I think it's the same discussion. The one thing that, Paul, I feel like I'm in the minority, and at times I feel like I'm totally overlooking something. But I'm not in this crowd that somehow that the two things that hurt the Big 12 last year was that, A, they didn't have a championship game, and B, they didn't declare one champion. And the reason I say that is because if I were sitting on that committee, and I have to believe from the guys I talked to on that committee, that they didn't really need the Big 12 to say, oh, by the way, guys, just to let you know, we are declaring that Baylor is our champion. I mean, I just trust the football judgment of those guys a little bit more than that they don't have to have someone ordained in a champion. And as for the extra game, I still look at it. I mean, look, if you play another high-profile game late as Ohio State did, I'm not saying that it doesn't benefit you, but if you have, 5-6 games against formidable competition, which at the end of the day, with a few exceptions, that's probably what everybody winds up having, at least what everybody views as that. Don't you evaluate those games and judge them on their merit, and you don't need a last impression necessarily if you think a team is far and away better? I just felt like that the whole Big 12 one champion, Big 12 has to have a championship game was sort of a knee-jerk overreaction to one season. So let's see how it goes this year. But as you point out, I guess if we have the same conversation, then we'll continue to have that debate as well.
Yeah, no, it seems like we do tend to bang our head against the wall about the same subjects every year. Looking elsewhere around the country, and I'm doing my best to avoid the SEC questions, Reece.
Fire away, Paul. I'm ready for anything.
I'm suffering from SEC fatigue after 4 days in Hoover, Alabama. But around the rest of the country, obviously the Pac-12 has certainly shown a lot. What do you see in that direction?
I'm really, really high on USC. Now, I do think that their margin for error is a little bit slim because of the sanctions. I don't think that their depth will be what it needs to be probably until next year or the year after. And that's the thing people miss on sanctions sometimes. It's not the starters. It's not the most immediate class. It's how do you practice. It's who you're practicing against. It's who has to step in if you get one of your frontline guys beat up. What you end up having is you end up having guys that probably ought to be scout teamers playing that are on the depth chart. You have walk-ons on the scout team, and then you have guys who should be redshirting and developing that are forced to play in some capacity. So it kind of backs you up. That said, their young talent is phenomenal. I called their bowl game last year. I think that they've got some of the best young offensive linemen in the country. Certainly Cody Kessler is terrific at quarterback. And they have some playmakers on defense as well. I mean, Adoree Jackson, who will play both ways for them, he's a scintillating athlete on both sides of the ball. So, I'm really high on USC, and I think that they'll come out of the Pac-12 and go to the college football playoff.
Great to catch up with Reece Davis. Reece, best wishes as you get ready for that first Saturday. Everyone I know is pulling for you, and I can't wait to see it.
Paul, I appreciate it. Have a good summer.
You bet. Great to talk to Reece Davis, and we'll obviously talk to him a lot as we get closer to the upcoming season, and we'll talk to you when we come back at 855-242-7285.
Investing in bonds.
Let's continue, and Marcus is in Cleveland, Ohio. Good afternoon.
Paul, how are you? Welcome back.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You know what? I tried to get through yesterday when Spears was going, but I couldn't get through. So just want to touch base on what Saban said about the chemistry after the SEC game. You and McElroy seemed to pretty much, not concede, but, state that it was somewhat of an excuse. And Spears was pretty aggressive in denying that. And I think he played for Spears in the over at LSU, but, a couple things I thought about. When Bama won their titles in 2011, 2012, they had about, I think, 9 or 10 total first-round picks, and that didn't seem to, hamper those guys beat up on Texas, Indy, and LSU. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, back to Marcus. I was with Marcus when Saban made the comments, and he was very defensive of Coach Saban, and I've had many athletes, including Marcus, tell me, not related to BCS or national championship games, but for lesser games, their draft status does impact how they think. You can't help but think about your body as you're playing in your final college game. I would take exception to the question in relation to that game, though. I think there are too many instances where it probably did not have nearly the impact or affected players like Coach Saban indicated he thought it did.
Right, and then, one more thing, and I hate to beat you up over what Spears said, but he mentioned, I think Malzahn said this, that you have to be charged up, or was it Saban or Malzahn? Saban said to play Auburn and then the SEC championship game. That can be said of any conference when you have a rival in the championship game. And, Spears went on to say, kind of poke fun of Wisconsin that they got blanked by LSU. Then they go and beat Auburn, and, we talk about it nauseum. Let's do SEC champ lost to IU, 1-7 in the Big Ten. So, I don't want to be an SEC hater and be an OSU honk, but what happened in the BCS era at this point is irrelevant. So to keep bringing up 7 or 8, 9 straight BCS championships are relevant. And another thing is, who's to say if we had a true playoff format, the SEC would win those championships? Welcome back, Paul. Thanks for the time.
Thank you. Really appreciate it, Marcus. Bobby is up next in Birmingham. What's up, Bobby?
Hey, how you doing today, buddy?
Good to have you back.
Yeah, good to have you back.
Thank you.
My wife asked me, say, why don't you go out to Hoover and see Paul? And I said, yeah, I should go out there and see Paul, baby. I said, but it's just too damn hot.
I wish you had it.
Yeah, everybody's trying to put old Crimson Mike in check. And nobody said nothing about Gus Malzahn. They let Gus Malzahn get up there and say he had the best coordinator in the universe. And nobody said nothing about that. When Alabama beat Texas, Paul, who was the defensive coordinator?
When Alabama beat Texas, it was Will Muschamp.
When Alabama beat Florida a couple of times, who was the head coach / coordinator?
Well, the head coach, one of the times was Will Muschamp.
Will Muschamp. And then they get up there and say,
excuse me, 2 of the times. His first year and then last year.
It was twice, Will Muschamp.
Right.
And he had a hand in the defense, too.
Sure he did.
And then they get up there and say, Jeremy Johnson played 1 game, and now they want to give him the Heisman Trophy. To win the Heisman Trophy, you got to have passing yards and rushing yards. When you say rushing yard, that means feet. Paul, the boy got 2 left feet. He might be good for 2 yards up the middle, but all of a sudden he's the second coming to Cam Newton. And then they say, well, Alabama lost the last 3 big games, but the quarterback, they keep talking about a quarterback. They didn't lose those games because of the quarterback. And the kick 6, McCarron didn't lose that game. Kirby Smart lost that game. And in the game against Ohio State, Blake Sims didn't lose that game. Kirby Smart lost that game. But they got so much hype with Auburn and Tennessee. I'm going to say this and I'm going to let you go. I hope it pans out, because if it don't, you can get a job in Lee County or either Knoxville, Tennessee, repairing the asphalt, because they're going to run all of their asses up out of there. I'll let you later, Paul. Have a nice day.
Thank you very much. Always good to hear from you. Let's go to Frankie next. Hey, Frankie, good afternoon.
Hey, Mr. Finebaum. How you doing today?
Very well, thanks.
I'm a first-time caller. Love the show. Just wanted to call. I know you got SEC on the brain this week from SEC Media Days. I wanted to get your take on the SEC West preseason projections. I know I saw Alabama was 1, and I think Auburn was 2. And I was kind of surprised to see LSU up there at 3.
Yeah, Auburn was the overall pick, but Alabama was the pick in the West. You are correct.
Right, and that's another thing I didn't really understand. They picked Alabama to win the West, and then I think what you said was they picked Auburn.
Yeah, what happened was the reason it's hard to explain. Well, it isn't that hard to explain. You voted 2 different ways. You voted West East, and then you voted overall. And apparently, Auburn had a couple of third-place votes, where Alabama, I'm sure, was dominant in 1 and 2. So Auburn lost a few votes by being voted down. It enabled Alabama to move up. I don't think it's that big a deal. I don't think any of this really matters. I saw that in a Birmingham News poll a couple of weeks ago as well. It's what happens when you vote different ways. And I think what it really says is the teams are so competitive, there's not much difference other than the fact the Iron Bowl is at Jordan-Hare Stadium. We're at the end of the first hour.
Hi. Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
And now, for Geico's edition of Stuff Found in Your Car, we go inside your side door pocket.
Hello, yes, the crumpled receipt with gum in it. From your anniversary dinner, you sprang for expensive wine, your server was Beth. That dinner was a couple $100. Money you could get back if you switched to Geico and saved hundreds of dollars on your car insurance. I bet you'd save that receipt, frame it even. But really, where did I go wrong? Was it the corkage fee?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com today.
The Boston Red Sox begin the second half with a road trip to the AL West, where they'll face Mike Trout and the LA Angels.
Dives in, and he made the catch!
First pitch is Sunday at 8 Eastern on ESPN and on ESPN Radio.